Hi, Room 7 and Room 13. All right, we are going to do our 10th reading from Pippi Longstockings by Astrid Lindgren. And in this reading, we will finish the chapter about Pippi going for a picnic, and we will start chapter 7. Let's do this. Okay. Oh, remember, we're going to find out what happened to Mr. Nielsen. Shh, shh, whispered Pippi. Don't wake the bull. He's sleeping. If we wake him, he'll be fussy. But the very next minute, without paying any attention to the bull and his nap, she was shrieking at the top of her voice. Mr. Nielsen! Mr. Nielsen! Where are you? We've got to go home. And believe it or not, there sat Mr. Nielsen up in a pine tree, sucking his tail and looking very lonely. Now, it wasn't much fun for a little monkey to be left all alone in the woods. He skipped down from the pine and up onto Pippi's shoulder, waving his little straw hat as he always did when he was oh so very happy. Well, well, so where were you? Said Pippi, stroking his back. Oh my, you had us worried, she said. Now you just wait and see. If you were playing around, well, Mr. Nielsen, I might make you the maid. Perhaps you should make me spaghetti and meatballs hereafter. And then, with a bit of a grin, they took off and began to stroll home. Pippi's dress still going clap, 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 and her shoes squish, squish, squish. Tommy and Annika thought they had had a wonderful day in spite of the bull, and they sang a song they had learned at school. It was really a summer song, but they thought it fitted very well even if it was now nearly fall. I'm not going to sing. You can put your own tune to this. In the jolly summertime, through field and wood we make our way. Nobody's sad, everyone's happy. We sing hey ho, hey ho, hey ho. You who are young, come join in our song. Don't sit home, moping about all day long. Our song will swell through wood and dell and up to the mountain tops as well. In the jolly summertime we sing as we go, hey ho, hey ho, hey ho. Now, Pippi sang too, but with slightly different words. In the jolly summertime, through field and wood I make my way. I do exactly as I wish, and when I walk it goes squish, 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 squish. And my old shoe, it's really true, sometimes says chip and sometimes says chew. For the shoe is wet, the bull sleeps yet, and I will eat rice pudding. I will eat all the rice pudding I can get. In the jolly summertime, I squish wherever I go. Squish-o, squish-o, squish-o. And that is the end of their picnic adventure. So Mr. Nielsen was up in a tree the whole time. Oh my goodness. Okay, the next chapter, chapter 7, can you see it? Is called Pippi Goes to the Circus. Uh-oh. Now a circus had come to the little town, and all the children were begging their mothers and fathers for permission to go. And of course Tommy and Annika asked if they could go too, and their father immediately gave them some money. Clutching it tightly in their hands, they rushed over to Pippi's house. She was on the porch with her horse, braiding his tail into tiny pigtails and tying each one with a red ribbon. I think it's his birthday today, she announced, so he has to be all dressed up. Pippi, said Tommy, all out of breath because he'd been running so fast. Pippi, do you want to go to the circus with us? Oh, well, I can go most anywhere you go, answered Pippi. But whether I can go to the circus or not, well, I don't know because I don't know what a circus is. Does it hurt? Oh, silly, said Tommy. Of course it doesn't hurt. It's fun. There's horses and clowns and tightrope walkers. But it costs money, said Annika, opening her small fist to see if she still had the shiny $50 and the quarters. Oh, well, I'm as rich as a troll, said Pippi, so I guess I can buy a circus all right. But it'll be awfully crowded here if I have more horses. The clowns and the tightrope walkers, they could stay in the laundry room, but it's hard to know what to do with the horses." "Oh, don't be silly," said Tommy. "You don't buy a circus. It costs money to go and watch a circus." "What? Oh, my heavens!" cried Pippi. She shut her eyes tightly. "It costs money to look? And here I go around looking at things all day. Goodness knows how much money I have looked away already." Then, little by little, she opened one eye very carefully, rolled it around, and in her head, "Cost what it may," she said, "I must take a look." At last, Tommy and Annika managed to explain what a circus really was, and she shook some gold pieces out of her suitcase. Then she put on her hat, which was as big as a millstone, and off they all went. There were crowds of people outside the circus tent and a long line at the ticket window, but at last it was Pippi's turn. She stuck her head through the window and stared at the dear old lady sitting there. "How much does it cost to look at you?" Pippi asked. But the old lady looked back at Pippi very strangely. She did not understand what Pippi was asking. "Well, little girl, it costs $1.25 to sit in the grandstand, 75 cents to sit on the benches, and 25 cents if you just want to stand." This is where Tommy interrupted and said that Pippi wanted the 75-cent ticket. Pippi put down a gold piece, and the old lady looked suspiciously at it. In fact, she bit it to see if it was real gold. At last, she was convinced that it really was gold, and gave Pippi her ticket and a great deal of change in silver. "Well, what am I going to do with all these nasty little silver coins?" Pippi said, kind of disgustedly. "Keep them and then keep looking at them while I stand in the standing room?" Pippi, at this point, absolutely refused to accept any change from the old lady. And in that case, the lady decided to change her ticket for one in the grandstand. And without even asking, Tommy and Annika gave them grandstand tickets too. In that way, Pippi, Tommy, and Annika came to sit on some of the most beautiful red chairs right next to the ring. Tommy and Annika turned around several times to wave to their schoolmates, who were sitting much farther away. "Oh, this is a remarkable place," said Pippi, looking around in astonishment. "But see, they've spilled sawdust all over the floor. Now, I'm not over-fussy myself, but it does look rather careless to me." Tommy explained that all circuses had sawdust on the floor for the horses to run around in. On a platform nearby, the circus band suddenly began to play a thundering march. Pippi clapped her hands wildly and jumped up and down with delight in her seat. "Does it cost money to hear this too?" she asked. "Or can you do that for nothing?" At that moment, the curtain in front of the performer's entrance was drawn back, and the ringmaster in a black coat entered with a whip in hand. He came running in, followed by 10 white horses with big red plumes in their hair. He cracked the whip, and the horses started galloping around the ring. He cracked it again, and they all stopped and stood still with their front feet up on the railing around the ring. Now one of them had stopped directly in front of the children. Now Annika did not like having the horses so near to her, and she drew back in her chair as far as she could, but Pippi leaned in. She leaned so close that she took one of the horse's front hooves and put it in her hand. She leaned in and said, "Well, hello there. I'm Pippi. My horse sent you his best wishes. It's his birthday today, but he has bows on his tail instead of on his head." Luckily, she dropped the foot before the ringmaster could crack his whip again, because then all the horses jumped away from the railing and began to run around the ring. When the act was over, the ringmaster bowed politely and the horses ran out. In an instant, the curtain opened again for a dark, deep, ebony black horse. On its back stood a beautiful lady dressed in green silk. The program said her name was Miss Carmencita. Okay, we're going to stop there. Now, nothing terribly unusual has happened yet. I wonder what kind of Pippi activity is going to happen at the circus. All right, guys, have fun in your Google Meets today and have a wonderful weekend. Goodbye, Room 7 and Room 13.